Imagine this, you wired a deposit to a Chinese supplier under a signed contract. The delivery deadline passes. No shipment, no refund, only promises. Now you're anxious. You feel stuck. Chinese law feels like a black box. You don't know what the right move is. And when you report it, the police tell you this is a commercial dispute. Go to court. At that moment, many foreign buyers feel completely confused. How is this not a scam? They took my money. And then a second fear kicks in. If I hire a Chinese lawyer, how do I know what they are saying is reliable? So what should you do? What is the right direction? I am a cross-border dispute resolution lawyer in a top 5 law firm in China. And today I will make it clear and walk you through how this situation is typically handled under Chinese law. Let's start with the most common question. Is reporting to the police useless? Actually, not necessarily. It can be useful if the facts truly meet the standard for criminal fraud. But here is the key point. The criminal standard is high and it is evidence-driven. In China, to classify a case as a fraud, the authorities typically focus on whether the actor 1. Fabricated facts and concealed the truth in a material way, or 2. Had an intent of illegal appropriation, meaning from the start, their purpose was to take the money and not perform. If you don't have strong evidence supporting these elements, especially the intent elements, then in practice, it is very difficult for the case to be formally treated as a fraud. And this is where many business cases fall short, because in many deposit and no delivery cases, the Chinese company may not started with a criminal intent. Instead, they may be facing a serious cash flow problems. They cannot deliver. They also cannot refund you. Because the company is already under the financial stress. From the outside, the result looks the same. You don't get your goods and you don't get your money back. But legally, if the transaction itself is genuine, there was a real contract, real negotiation, real payments, and the real business behavior, then the police often treat it as a civil or commercial dispute, and they will direct you to the civil litigation. This is also a reality in China. It's often difficult to clearly separate economic disputes from economic crimes without sufficient evidence. Criminal enforcement is a serious tool and should be used as a last resort. If every business dispute automatically becomes fraud and entrepreneurs were jailed whenever a company ran into a financial difficulty, the system would be both unjust and economically damaged. Now, if the police route doesn't move, or doesn't meet the criminal threshold, what then? You can still pursue a civil litigation, and in many cases, civil litigation is the most practical and effective path, especially for the foreign buyers. In fact, when I represent foreign clients in sales contract disputes like this, I often recommend civil proceedings. Because your primary goal is typically to recover your money or obtain your goods, not necessarily to put someone in jail. And civil litigation in China can produce strong results, particularly because the court system has enforceable mechanisms, including asset preservation and compulsory enforcement. Many people assume court in China will take years. That is not always true. Realistically, given the current court caseloads, a typical first-instance civil case from filing and acceptance to a first-instance judgment often takes around 6 months. In faster cases, it can be 3 or 4 months. And importantly, Chinese courts widely use a court-connected mediation mechanism. After a case is formally accepted, a court mediator may intervene early and try to facilitate a settlement between two parties. If the settlement is reached during this stage, the dispute may be resolved within 1 to 2 months after filing, sometimes even faster. Here is the practical advantage of settling through a court process. If the parties reach a settlement under the court supervision, the court can issue a mediation statement. That is a formal document. This document has the enforceability. That means if a Chinese company later refuses to perform the settlement, you can apply directly to the court for the compulsory enforcement without needing a Liu brand lawsuit. This can be highly efficient. If the first instance judgment is issued and the Chinese company appeals, the second instance proceedings often takes 3 to 4 months to get the final result, depending on the complexity of the case and the court schedule. Once the final judgment is issued, and you can apply for compulsory enforcement. Depending on the circumstances, enforcement may involve bank account measures, freezing and transferring funds, seizure and auction of assets, and other compulsory methods permitted by the law. So overall, Chinese litigation is not as mysterious as it looks from the outside. Once you understand the framework, the path becomes much clearer. Let me end with a practical piece of advice. When a dispute happens, don't automatically assume that calling the police is the best choice. Instead, consult a reliable China-based lawyer and do a cost-effective and evidence-based assessment. For example, does the evidence support the criminal fraud elements, or is this primarily a civil contract dispute? Which strategy will recover your money fastest, civil, criminal, or a combined approach? And remember this principle. Your primary objective is recovering your money or your goods, not necessarily a criminal outcome and leaves you unpaid. If you take the right legal direction early, you will maximize your chances of getting a good result.